On a quiet island in northern Germany, an elderly woman once served soup beneath a portrait of a dead man. Guests came and went, some strangers, others familiar faces from a darker time. They called her by her married name, though few dared to say it aloud. The man in the portrait had helped design one of the most efficient killing systems in history, one of the chief architects of the Holocaust, and the man Prague once called the Butcher. She was his widow, and decades later, her son would try to tell the world his father wasn't as bad as history claimed. So, hold your thoughts for a moment, and let us step back to where it all started. Lina Mathilde von Osten was born on June 14, 1911, on the island of Fehmarn, in what was then the German Empire. Her father was a teacher descended from minor Danish nobility. Her mother ran the household. Letters and recollections from neighbors describe a disciplined family, nationalistic and proud. By her late teens, Lina was outspoken in her political convictions. In 1929, she joined the Nazi Party, shortly after attending a rally where Adolf Hitler spoke. From that day forward, she called National Socialism her faith. Letters from the time show her echoing Nazi slogans, writing that Jews were our misfortune and that Hitler's rise was the dawn of honor for Germany. About a year later, that faith would shape her future in an unexpected way. In December 1930, she met a young naval officer named Lina Heydrich at a rowing club ball in Kiel. The connection was instant. Within 12 days they were engaged, though Heydrich had already promised marriage to another woman. His reckless decision caused a scandal. A naval court of honor dismissed him in April 1931 for dishonoring the officer corps. He was 27 and unemployed. Lina, fiercely ambitious and equally loyal, urged him to join the growing Schutzstaffel, or SS. Family correspondence suggests she even arranged his interview with Heinrich Himmler after a cancellation notice was sent. She packed his suitcase and told him to go anyway. Himmler, impressed by Heydrich's appearance and precision, hired him on the spot. Within a decade, Heydrich would command the Reich Security Main Office, the Gestapo, and the SD intelligence network. As his influence grew, so did hers. Lina took pride in his reputation as the Reich's most efficient officer and urged him to stay close to Himmler even when rival factions turned against him. Letters from this period show her warning that to step back now would be betrayal. Her encouragement fed his resolve as the machinery of repression expanded across Europe. Those who knew the couple later said that Lina's conviction often outran his caution. When Heydrich expressed doubts about the party's extremes, she dismissed them as weakness and told him he was serving the future of Germany. It became their shared creed. Lina and Reinhard married in December 1931 and soon had 4 children: Klaus, Heider, Silke, and Martha. From a modest apartment in Munich, they rose to grand estates near Prague, taking over homes that once belonged to Jewish families forced to flee. Records show Lina adapted easily to privilege. By the late 1930s, she was writing letters to her parents, celebrating the arrests of political enemies. In one, she described SS men forcing a Jewish official to walk home barefoot, calling it a joy to watch. When Kristallnacht shattered storefronts across Germany in 1938, Reinhard helped organize it. Lina approved, calling it a cleansing. At SS wives' gatherings, she told women that a wife's duty was to give her husband courage for the fight. At women's SS meetings, she urged others to stand firm behind their men, saying that a wife's duty was to give him courage in the fight. If Reinhard hesitated, she stiffened his resolve. He later admitted that her conviction often surpassed his own. Family friends remembered her criticizing Heydrich if he showed pity or doubt about Jewish questions. She boasted that she kept him firm when others wavered. As the war spread, Heydrich's administrative power widened to terrifying effect. He directed deportation orders that fed the concentration camps and chaired the meeting at Wannsee on January 20, 1942, where officials coordinated what they called the final solution, a plan that would murder roughly 6 million Jews across occupied Europe. After the invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1939, Hitler appointed Heydrich acting Reich protector of Bohemia and Moravia. Prague, then under German rule, soon learned to fear his name. His program of arrests and executions was so brutal that locals called him the Butcher of Prague. The family moved into the confiscated Panenské Břežany estate near Prague, formerly owned by Jewish industrialist Ferdinand Bloch-Bauer. Lina called it her fairy tale home. She built gardens, a swimming pool, and horse stables. She also demanded labor. More than 140,000 people passed through Theresienstadt during the war. About 33,000 died there, and tens of thousands more were sent onward to extermination camps. Testimonies from former prisoners of the Theresienstadt ghetto describe being forced to work on her property under SS guard. Survivors remembered her watching them through binoculars, ordering beatings when they moved too slowly. One recalled her spitting on workers and shouting that Jews were lucky to serve the Reich. One survivor said they were fed only potato peels and forced to bow when she passed. At home, she repeated her husband's words, "We will Germanize the Czechs." She said it proudly, calling his mission God's work for Germany. In May 1942, 2 Czech commandos trained by Britain's SOE Josef Gabčík and Jan Kubiš ambushed Heydrich's car on a Prague street in what became known as Operation Anthropoid. Their grenade tore through the vehicle and into his back. After a week of agony and infection, he died on June 4, 1942, from sepsis. Hitler ordered national mourning and revenge. Entire villages paid the price. Lidis was wiped from the map, about 340 men, women and children murdered or deported. Ležáky followed soon after, its population executed or sent to camps. Lina called the reprisals justice for a hero. Hitler granted Lina the Panenské Břežany estate and a lifetime pension. She gave birth to their 4th child, Marte, weeks later. While Europe mourned or cheered, Lina focused on maintaining her world of privilege. She had her son Klaus buried in the castle garden after his death in a traffic accident in 1943. When Jewish laborers dug the grave, she ordered it reopened because no Jewish hands should touch an Aryan child's resting place. By April 1945, the Red Army was approaching Prague. Lina fled with her children back to Fehmarn, taking preserved food, the family silver, and her husband's blood-stained uniform. Witnesses said she exhumed Klaus's body and hid it from advancing troops. Post-war courts in Czechoslovakia sentenced her to life imprisonment in absentia, but British occupation authorities refused extradition. She lived quietly on the island, surviving the hunger years by selling furniture and poultry. Her mother-in-law starved to death in Halle during the famine winter of 1946. Through the 1950s, Lina fought to secure a widow's pension, arguing that her husband had died in service to Germany. Incredibly, a West German court agreed in 1956, ruling that Heydrich had been a general in the regular police when killed. Public outrage followed, but the pension remained. Lina used part of it to open a guest house on the island, naming it Imbria Parva, after a line from classical Latin meaning the small rain. Above the fireplace hung Heydrich's death mask. Former SS officers and sympathizers visited often. One local recalled them singing wartime songs late into the night while Lina poured wine. In 1965, she married Finnish theatre director Mauno Manninen, mostly to change her surname. The marriage ended within 4 years. He died in 1969, the same year her restaurant burned down. Lina rebuilt what she could, but by the 1970s she lived modestly in a small house surrounded by archives, photographs, and letters she refused to part with. Then came a strange resurrection. In 1976, Lina published her memoir, Life with a War Criminal. She insisted the title was ironic. The book portrayed her husband as a disciplined officer misunderstood by history. claiming the Holocaust was an invention of Allied propaganda. The publisher added an annotated commentary by historian Werner Maaser correcting her distortions. Furious, Lina tore the commentary pages from copies she sent to friends. When asked about concentration camps, she told a reporter, "It was all a fairy tale." In 1979, she reaffirmed, "National Socialism was a faith, and I can never renounce this faith." She died in Fehmarn on August 14, 1985, at the age of 74. Local clergy declined to officiate her funeral. Her grave, modest and unmarked for years, lies near her parents' plot. Decades later, her son Lina Heydrich, born in 1934 and once a naval officer himself, took up his mother's cause. In 2017, he began editing a new edition of Life with a War Criminal, promoting it as a necessary correction. The publisher, Druffel and Vauwinkel, has long been associated with far-right revisionist literature. Their catalogue describes the project as an unaltered biography, newly edited by his son with family photographs. Yet, as historians quickly noted, it was neither unaltered nor accurate. Even the assassination date was wrong, listed as May 29th instead of May 27th, 1942. Critics saw the reprint as a deliberate attempt to soften the image of one of Nazi Germany's most feared men. When journalists reached Heydrich for comment, he described himself as not competent to speak publicly about his father. But his actions, republishing, promoting, and defending the book, spoke louder than words. The 2022 edition was postponed indefinitely after public backlash, though its promotional page briefly appeared online. It promised a biography that awakens curiosity. For many Germans, it instead awakened anger. Records from German archives and the Federal Memorial for the Victims of Nazism emphasize the importance of resisting such revisionism. They remind readers that Reinhard Heydrich chaired the Wannsee Conference on January 20, 1942, where coordination of the final solution was formalized. He signed deportation orders, oversaw executions, and left an administrative paper trail that cannot be erased by nostalgia or denial. Lina's insistence that he was a good man destroyed by enemies collapses under the weight of those documents. Yet her story endures precisely because it shows how denial can survive even defeat. Historians like Nancy Dougherty, who visited her in the 1970s, described Lina as charming, witty, and evasive. When confronted with evidence, she changed the subject or offered coffee. Dougherty wrote that Lina shifted among layers of reality until she found one she could live with. To the end, she believed her husband had been betrayed by history, not condemned by it. Before we close, one detail worth noting. Among Lina's surviving family letters is a small postcard addressed to Mama from her grandson, also named Reinhard. The boy thanks her for sending photographs of Opa's castle. By then, the castle in Panenské Břežany had been turned into a research institute studying the Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia. Inside its archive, the names of thousands of murdered Czech citizens are preserved in bound registers. On the last page of one volume, a clerk wrote a simple line dated May 27, 1942. Reinhard Heydrich, injured in Prague. That record remains unchanged. History is full of voices that tried to rewrite what they had done. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe for more true accounts that challenge denial, and share your thoughts in the comments below.